Process servers attempted to serve Gibb on May 19th at her Rexburg, Idaho hotel. Now, does anybody else find this interesting? I mean, that's the last place I would have expected to see Gibb, who lives in Arizona, Rexburg, Idaho. Why she was in Rexburg? Keep in mind this thought about the possible grand jury that was conducted last week, or potentially conducted last week, May 17th through the 20th. Nobody's talking about whether it really happened for sure, but what we do know is Gibb was staying at the Spring Hill Suites last week, a short 6-minute drive from the Madison County Courthouse. I don't know about you, but this one makes me really think. This is really an interesting thing, isn't it? Well, let's talk about the subpoena. The subpoena wasn't personally signed for by Gibb. In fact, according to Marilee Jorgensen of Bulldog Legal Support, Gibb actually refused to sign the subpoena, so she had to just leave it there and walk away, but verbally told Gibb she had been served. So there's no way around it. She's been served on this thing. Now, we want to take a look at the subpoena in a little more detail as we get going on here. But bottom line is, I don't think that Gibb was in Rexburg to visit the Daybells in jail. I mean, bottom line is the subpoena is going to support seek a bunch of really interesting information. And first and foremost, it's going to ask for all forms of communication with more than 45 people, including friends, acquaintances, law enforcement officers, officers of the court, and even journalists. As we talked about a few weeks ago, that means people like Keith Morrison of Dateline and Nate Eaton of East Idaho News are going to be on that list of people they're looking at. But there's so much more. Daybell's attorney, Mark Means, wants Gibb to hand over all of her phone records, including texts. Now, don't forget that Daybell has been deemed indigent by the court. That means she's broke. She can no longer afford an attorney. So rather than give her a public defender, the courts now have decided they're going to pay the bill for Mark Means to continue representing the defendant. Now, having taxpayers foot the bill may bug a few of us, but it really ensures that Daybell receives the competent legal counsel she's promised under the U.S. Constitution. The subpoena demands access to all of Melanie Gibb's social media usernames and passwords. I mean, think about this. How would you feel if everything, Facebook, Yahoo, Twitter, Instagram, all of that was made available? And don't forget, they also want her Avow account. Do you remember Avow? Avow is that website that's another voice of warning, the group that Daybells and Gibb and all the others listen to as part of their preparedness mindset. And then just when you think you've heard it all, Daybell's attorney also wants to know if Gibb's internet provider information, her digital and electronic means, everything she's communicated with, including podcasts, books, public appearances, everything. And here's the final wow for today. Means is also requesting any copies of police reports regarding charges, convictions, plea agreements, immunity agreements regarding Gibb's involvement with Vallow's case. Now, he wants all this delivered to his office by June 1st. That's a short timetable. Now, I want to just pause there for a second because I want you to think about something. If they're asking for immunity and other things, think about those phone calls and the ghost stories we're hearing about whether things were said. It really makes you start wondering what Gibb might know and how far her involvement goes in all of this as this thing unfolds. Are there immunity agreements? It's happened before. I've been involved in cases where that's happened. Well, so the Daybells have pleaded not guilty in several felony charges related to the alteration, the destruction of the bodies of Joshua J.J. Vallow, his sister Tylee Ryan, the two that were discovered in the backyard buried in Chad Daybell's yard in June of 2020. Now, the next hearing is going to be scheduled for June 9th in Fremont County. So the question I have for all of you is, what do you think? I mean, what was Melanie Gibb doing in Rexburg, Idaho last week? Was the grand jury actually held? I'm going to look forward to reading your comments below, and I want to just take some time and look at some of your comments in here and just talk to you for a bit, answer some questions. So that's what the subpoena is all about. It's asking for a lot of information. It's asking about conversations with a lot of people, and some of you might be right that there may be much more to learn out of all of this. Some of you are saying, hey, for instance, Peapod, I like this. I think the same thing. I'm still waiting for Chad and Lori to turn on each other. I am too. In fact, I'm shocked, and maybe it has happened and we don't know about it and they don't know about it. But yeah, there's going to be some interesting things happening. Let's see. I hope you're all having a good day. A lot of wacky stuff going on in this particular case. Here from Eric, Sarah Adams, if these reports about the phone call are true, she won't be the star witness for long. Eric, actually, if she's been given immunity, she could be the star witness and still be very important to the case. And frankly, just because she knew didn't mean that she supported the action and took part in it. It just may be that she uncovered it, and while she was sorting through how to handle that, may have taken longer than you or I would like. But we have these kinds of things happen all along. If you think about my case, the Zion Society, the book that I just had come out, it talks a lot about the fact that we offered one of the people who was actually involved in teaching the children this sexual way of life. We offered immunity because her testimony was so important in collapsing the 12 kingpins above her and bringing that whole organization down. So that will be interesting. Let's see here. And again, I'm going through some evolution, folks. The back office tells me I need to slow down a little and just spend some time chatting with you and answering your questions. So I'm trying to do that. I always feel like I might be wasting your time by slowly reading through these, but this will be interesting for me to evolve and get better at this. Quiet Observer said she actually managed to catch a live. So from the north of England, great to see. In fact, I saw somebody from South Africa on today. Saw somebody from New Zealand complaining that it's down into the 40s Fahrenheit now in South New Zealand. That from mountain country is not that cold, but I know because I've been there, and I love fishing in New Zealand, by the way. Love being there. And I also saw somebody today from Norway come on, and at some point I'll put up a picture of the hike I took out to Preikestolen and out onto Preacher's Rock. If you ever get a chance, folks, look that up. It is an incredible rock overhanging one of the many waterways in Norway, about 2,000 feet straight down. And I was with a bunch of Norwegian cops there, and they were jumping from point to point as you kind of walk along the wall of Preikestolen. And I was like, I had my hands against the wall moving along. They were much more comfortable at that height than I was. But let's see. So a lot of people casting a lot of discussion around Melanie and whether she's guilty or not. Again, folks, I think what we're going to see is that she had information. If they actually offered immunity to her, as that might suggest, the subpoena, then it will be interesting. But clearly, I keep going back to the fact she was in Rexburg. Why was she in Rexburg? And did this grand jury really happen? And it's feeling like and looking like the grand jury happened. And now the defense, who wouldn't have been there for the grand jury, is wanting to collect all that information. So let's see here. Just because Melanie responds to the subpoena, that doesn't make her guilty. Absolutely not. Thank you for putting that in. Let's see. Somebody said turn off the music. I don't know what that is. I sometimes I say turn off the phone because I have ringing in my ears, unless it was my goofy little sound thing at the beginning. And if so, I'm so sorry. I'll get better at all of that stuff. Well, folks, this is going to be really interesting to watch unfold. I really appreciate all of you who jumped in to listen. You've heard me talking a lot about these doomsday cults in the last couple of months, and this belief that the Daybells and those around them had. I firmly believe that they were part of a cult, and with that came a lot of really interesting dynamics. Now, most of us are a little bit concerned with family and self-preparedness, and that's not a bad thing. In fact, it's really smart to have money in the bank and food in your pantry. You never know when things are going to tighten up. I mean, think about the coronavirus disease this last year. Did you ever think you'd be fighting for a roll of toilet paper in the grocery store? But there's a real difference between being wise and being fanatical. It's a thin line, and people can slip over the edge about it. Now, this is a little bit of a shameless plug, but I want you to know you can learn a lot about my thoughts on destructive cults and cult behavior by picking up my book, Deceived. It's an investigative memoir of the Zion Society cult. You can get it at Profiling Evil or at Amazon. Hopefully you saw it on Dr. Phil. He's been kind enough to endorse the book and have it on his show a number of times. Check out the book. It will really talk about a lot of the cult dynamics and things that are out there. If you are interested in this cult theme, I wanted to also make you aware that tonight at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, I'm going to be on Unmasked with Vanessa. We're going to be wrapping up a 2-part series that we've been doing on the Love Has Won cult. And tonight, I think you might be interested because we're going to be talking to 2 former cult members. So I don't think you're going to want to miss that particular broadcast. And then going with this theme, last week, you would have heard Rick Ross from the Cult Education Institute talking about cult dynamics and cult recruiting tactics. That was really a good podcast. I'd invite you to go back and look at it and to just stay on the theme this week, especially for my Aussie friends and those in New Zealand. I'm going to be talking with Australian investigator Lex DeMann, who broke up the family cult in Oz. Now, this was a group that was headed up by Ann Hamilton Byrne, and it was a wacky set of circumstances. You can catch those podcasts on your favorite podcast platform or here, and you can always go out and just whatever your podcast platform preference is, go to it, look for Profiling Evil and Mapping Evil podcasts, and make sure you check those out. Julie Cares says she's actually met Lex before. What a great guy Lex is, and you're going to enjoy hearing from him again. Incredibly brilliant investigator, and one of my friends from down under. I saw a moment ago that a Okie Dokie put in a nice little super chat. Thank you so much for that. And folks, thanks for your support of Profiling Evil. I really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, would you please subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you know what we're doing and when we're bringing out new content. I'm going to continue to keep you updated as I see things. Now, there's a lot of stuff that rolls out that I just think, okay, that's really interesting information, but I try to keep it a little more on the edutainment side of the house. So we'll continue to try to do that. and see if we can give you a good show to watch from time to time. So let me look one more time here and see if there are any questions that pop up. And the back office told me I needed to wait about 10 seconds when I ask about questions, because it takes a few minutes for the question to roll around. So we're going to do that. Here's a question from FGB. Are you going to address the alleged Melanie Gibb phone call? I did at the beginning, FGB, and basically what I said was I kind of wait for evidence to come out that becomes public before I talk about things, even if I happen to know some things on the QT side. So instead, what I did is I talked about the fact, and if you go back and listen, you'll hear me talk about the fact that there are some interesting things that would suggest that there might be some meat on that bone about whether the alleged phone call happened and what was contained in that. Hope you're comfortable with that. I guess the important thing is that's where I'm kind of comfortable, is keeping it at that point. So we'll continue to roll out as information becomes available and we get permission to do that. You might have seen, as we've gone through the Suzanne Morphew case, that's exactly the line I have drawn in the sand. And we're going to be really intrigued on Thursday at 4 p.m. when we hear more. I suspect we're going to have an arrest affidavit. I suspect that the arrest affidavit is going to be incredibly long, and so there'll be quite a bit to talk about after that comes out. So we'll just keep looking and try to cover things as they unfold in a way that makes sense. Nancy Browning says, well, maybe Melanie's in Rexburg trying to get her story straight. I think she's probably was there to testify in the grand jury, and the subpoena only makes me think that more strongly, knowing that as soon as that grand jury was over, then the subpoena came asking for some really intriguing, specific kinds of information, including naming specific people that conversations were wanted on. So that's going to be interesting to watch as well. Let's see. Joe Wiley says, I thought the defense had to do the work of finding a lot of what he's asking for. So it's a process called discovery, Joe, and the prosecution, if they put a witness on, has to provide the defense with information so that they can also investigate that allegation and information. It's about coming to the truth, not about having something secret that you bombshell somebody with. And we want again these cases to be solid, so there's less chance of an appeal. Terry Dalton, thanks so much for that kind super chat. I don't know anything about Melanie right now, but there are some interesting things that are floating around out there that we'll keep looking at. So Linda Petrovich asks if I've heard how Barry likes his permanent home. Well, that won't be his permanent home. Hopefully, if he is in fact guilty, then prison will be the permanent home. But my understanding through the grapevine is that when the additional charges were filed and he received additional arrest affidavits, he was emotionless as he accepted those. We, of course, saw when he appeared on the forgery charges that he was emotionless. And so it will be interesting to see how he reacts when he gets into the next court hearing this week. So Jackie, hello from Minnesota. Hello back at you. Thanks for joining in. And let's see. This is kind of interesting. Jean Marie, Melanie knew they were planning Charles' murder. I don't know if that's accurate or not. There are ghost stories that suggest lots of things. And again, I'm just waiting for affidavits and other things that I feel comfortable in talking about as factual allegations. So, Wendy, I agree with you. The case is incredibly disturbing. These cases are difficult to consume at times. So now, Brenda, you're saying her refusal to sign the papers makes me believe she's not cooperating. It's pretty. The process servers can be a little bit aggressive and in your face, and it could have been just completely a misunderstanding too. And I try to always give the benefit of the doubt on why someone might act some way in particular. May have even thought it was something as benign as another news person or a YouTuber or someone else trying to talk to her. So the fact that she bailed and went a different direction doesn't really upset me too much. The important part is that the process server can indicate she was put on notice and I left the subpoena, and then the responsibility falls on Melanie to either choose to be in compliance with the court or to be in contempt of the court. And that's another thing, by the way. And I probably will talk about this Thursday morning for a moment, but in the Morphew case, the judge has determined, we actually petitioned the court for permission to rebroadcast the WebEx hearings, and the judge has said absolutely not. It's actually a contempt of court if you do. If you were on the live with when I had Scott Reich on a few weeks ago, Scott actually cautioned me not to show something that I was preparing to show because it would have been a court violation. I'm so grateful for him for setting me straight on that, and we won't be doing that, but we will be sharing what we learn. So Algo1 says, would this call, assuming it's legit, be admissible in court? Assuming, so the question I think is around, is it a single party consent state or a two party, and which state were the people in when they made the call? All of those will be worked out, and I'm sure that the defense would love to challenge, if it's inflammatory, the entry of the phone call, if in fact it does exist. But I don't think that the defense or the prosecution would be presenting it if they didn't have a really strong chance of getting that in, if in fact it does exist. So yeah. Well, you all are just great to be with. Thank you so much. If you haven't subscribed to Profiling Evil, would you please do it? I really appreciate having you join up, and it certainly helps us in getting support from YouTube to continue to push out content. I hope you'll send me really good critiques about things that you think we can do better or things you think that are working. I really do appreciate the comments, and I appreciate the mods. I know that sometimes there are people who show up that don't necessarily match the personality of this particular YouTube channel, and I really appreciate when the mods send some subtle correction, at times even banned from coming in. I love the fact that you will disagree and argue with each other, but you do it in a professional and an adult manner. There's no need to be crude or anything else, and that really means a lot to me, that you would take the high road. And I love disagreement. I just absolutely love disagreement. It is a way to learn and to evolve and understand. But I can't stand it when we get kind of disgusting and take cheap shots. In fact, I always have felt that if we examined and worked on behavior, not attack personalities, we can always have much better conversations. So I just really appreciate the way you all step up and take the high road. Even when you want to fling a fiery dart, you seem to take the high road. So thanks a lot. You are an amazing group of people. I'll say it one more time. Please watch for tomorrow's podcast with Lex Demand, The Family. Tonight, join me with Vanessa at 6 p.m. Mountain Time on Unmasked to talk about Love Has Won. We're actually going to have a couple of cult members on to talk through a couple of things, in particular, whether the cult can survive without Amy involved in the cult. Please look at Purchasing Deceived. Please subscribe. Please continue joining us for Profiling Evil's choir practice. And you know what? We didn't have a lot of you there last night, but if you get a minute, go back and watch choir practice last night with Brandon Tatum. We were talking police work and laughing and having a good time, and hopefully it was worthwhile. Some think he's controversial. That's great. But we really did have a good time. We talked about a lot of important things, and I really appreciated his stance on standing up for law enforcement. I appreciate all of you. I hope you have a great day. I cannot express enough how much I appreciate all that you do. And I'll see you soon on the next crime scene.